Hi, CELPIP friend. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Maria. I'm a Canadian CELPIP expert, and I'm here to help you pass your CELPIP exam confidently and stress-free. Now, I want to help you really imagine what your dream state would be if you were to finally pass your CELPIP test without any stress and anxiety. Now, can you really imagine that? Just feel it in your body. What if that could be your reality? What if you could finally get the band scores of your dreams? Or how about the possibility of not spending thousands of dollars on various CELPIP tests? What would it feel like if you finally got your Canadian permanent residency? Really just sit in that. Imagine yourself getting those band scores that you so want, receiving an email or opening your computer and seeing that CLB9, or finally having your Canadian PR. So tap into that energy. And with that energy, knowing that you can do this, I'd love us to get into this webinar with that positive energy and the mindset that you can do this. And guess what? You're exactly where you need to be right now. Your journey is your journey. A lot of times in class, my CELPIP students compare themselves to other people in their immigration journeys, and that's totally normal. And I want you to know that you are not alone. Preparing for the CELPIP test can definitely be a very stressful, overwhelming, or frustrating experience when you don't have the proper guidance and support. So now that you're here, I want you to know that you're right where you need to be. So who is this webinar for? Well, if you are tired of taking the CELPIP test over and over again and you finally want answers, then you are in the right place. And if you're brand new to the CELPIP test, you've never taken it before, and you want to start preparing from scratch, you're also in the right place. If you need a CLB9 plus, a lot of students nowadays need a 10 or higher even, this is the right place to be, because all of the information I'm going to share with you in this webinar is going to be at an examiner level. If you're looking to study with an official CELPIP preparation school, meaning a school that is officially authorized by CELPIP, then you're also in the right place. And if you're looking for a step-by-step plan for your exam prep and to feel in general more confident and stress-free on your next test day, welcome to this webinar, because I've really prepared something special for you. For today's webinar, get ready to learn what the CLB is, the Canadian Language Benchmark, and why it's so important for your Canadian immigration. You're also going to learn how to calculate the CLB for your CELPIP test and 4 of my Exam Pro keys to success. I'm also going to show you a really fun way to reduce your test anxiety and how I can help you prepare for your exam in a simple and stress-free way. So who am I? Now, my name is Maria. I'm a Canadian exam specialist. I have been helping ESL students from all over the world since 2008. I started teaching how to prepare for the CELPIP exam ever since the test basically came into existence. Before the CELPIP test, I was really focusing on the IELTS, working as an examiner for the IELTS as well. And once the CELPIP test was created, I became certified as an official CELPIP instructor, and I am a level 1, 2, and 3 CELPIP instructor certified with distinction. I'm also the founder and head teacher of English for Canada. I'm a native speaker of Canadian English. I was born and raised in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, but I am also fluent in Spanish and Portuguese. Now, why do I speak those 2 languages? I speak Spanish because my parents are also immigrants. They moved here from Chile, and I lived in Brazil for many, many years, about almost 9 years, working as an English teacher. So I also have the experience of learning a language as an adult. And I also really value and appreciate immigrants because my parents are immigrants. English for Canada is a school that I founded in 2014. We are a team of Canadian exam experts and English teachers. We are 100% Canadian English and 100% online, and CELPIP has designated us as an official CELPIP network school, meaning Prometric Testing has authorized us to sell their paid practice tests. So they have already authorized us to prepare students as an official CELPIP preparation school. By studying with English for Canada, you can trust that you're studying with a credible and authorized school by CELPIP, and you're going to be learning straight from the source. Now here are some socials here if you'd like to follow us, because we do post some tips, especially on our YouTube channel. My promise to you today is for you to learn exam pro tips and secrets that you won't find elsewhere, so you can take your next test confidently and calmly. I'm on your side. What is the CELPIP test? For those of you especially who are just getting started, I do want to break this down. And for those of you who need a CLB 9+, I do want to remind you about the purpose of the CELPIP test. The CELPIP test is a Canadian English proficiency exam used for immigration and citizenship processes. It is not an academic test, and it's really important that we remember this, because we do not need to go to the test using really academic English. They are ultimately testing your ability to speak naturally and confidently in everyday life. You will get a score, a band score, between 0 and 12. And at the end of the day, it's not just an English test. Even someone, say from Australia, the United States, or the UK would need to take the CELPIP test, and they would need to prepare for the CELPIP test because the CELPIP test has very specific performance standards, which we will be talking about later today. So what is the CLB and why is it so important? Especially if you are just getting started preparing for your CELPIP test, you might be wondering what on earth this means. And you might be asking yourself a couple of questions. The most common question that I get is, how long should I prepare for my test? Or if you need a CLB 9 or higher, you might be thinking, well, I have no idea how long it's going to take for me to get this band score. Ultimately, the answer to the question of how long should I prepare for is right here in this table, because the difference between your current proficiency level and your goal is really how long you should take. I usually tell students to prepare for at least 3 months, but let's say you only have to improve by 1 band score, you could probably prepare in less time. So elementary, that's the very basics when you're first getting started with the language, is a CLB 3 and below. Then we've got pre-intermediate, that's a CLB 4 and 5. And then we move on into intermediate, CLB 5 or 7. This is where many of you might be, especially if you've just created your Express Entry profile. And then we have upper intermediate. This is where a CLB 8 or 9 can be found. However, I would actually say that a CLB 9 leans more towards a C1 advanced. Now, I created this table based on studies by the Canadian Language Benchmark Language Canada, but my experience working as an examiner for multiple different English proficiency tests and working with students over a decade is that if you need a CLB 9 plus or higher, or at least a CLB 9, I strongly believe that a CLB 9 leans more towards C1 advanced than B2 plus. That's my personal opinion. However, I did create this table based on the facts that I found on the source. So I will say my opinion though. I think that it leans more towards C1 advanced. And then we've got C2 proficiency. That's a CLB 12. Now, let's compare this to your first language. In your first language, you are a native speaker, okay? So you are above, you are at the highest level. A CLB 9 is just a few levels below. So when you are thinking about preparing for your test and what you need to achieve, I really want you to keep that benchmark in mind, not to intimidate you, but I want you to really keep a realistic mindset and a realistic goal when preparing. So how do we calculate your CLB on the CELPIP? We do not take the average to determine your final CLB. We actually use your lowest band score. So let's say you get a 10 on the listening, a 10 on the reading, an 8 on the writing, a 7 on the speaking. Instead of taking an average of these 4 scores, your final CLB is actually the lowest band score. So when you're preparing, you definitely want to focus on improving all 4 skills. All right, let's get into Exam Pro keys to success. Key number 1 is to use topic and context-specific vocabulary. Why is this important? The CELPIP test is not an academic English test. Instead, I want you to think about what the context and the situation is in your question. Using advanced vocabulary incorrectly will actually lower your band score. And it's very important for you to use appropriate and accurate words. So I'm going to show you some examples here. Here's example A for topic and context. Let's say that you get a question either on the speaking or writing test about the environment. A lot of test takers try to impress their examiner, thinking that, well, the TOEFL or the IELTS test, they are academic English tests. I'm going to use overly academic or unusually academic words. YouTube channels have told me to memorize these fancy academic words, so I'm going to shove these words into my response. What happens is by doing that, your response sounds unnatural. Remember that the CELPIP test is an English test that is testing your ability to speak naturally, confidently in everyday life, at work, and in your community. So when you do that, your response will seem forced or out of place. It's better to use real life English. So here are some examples of words, expressions that you could use that are topic specific and context specific. And an examiner would prefer this over forcing yourself to use words that you just memorized from the dictionary. And this is what I see a lot of people doing who are preparing from YouTube channels. So take a look at some of these words and feel free to take some notes. Okay, example B. This is kind of an extension of the last one, but using really unnatural and awkward vocabulary. So again, trying to use really academic words that make your writing or your speaking unnatural. Some words just don't have a synonym, and that's okay. This is an example of a student of mine who was trying to say the word parents. And instead of saying the word parents, they said progenitor. Very scientific. Now, technically, that's not a wrong word. But in real life, I would never say that to my friend in a conversation, right? Or even a boss. So we have to think about how we would speak in real life. Of course, accuracy and appropriacy also matter. At the end of the day, this is an English test. So your test rater is going to be checking if you are able to use the right words for the right context and for the right topic. So here's an example of accuracy, right? So here's an example of a test taker trying to use advanced vocabulary, but it's incorrect. So always aim for accuracy. Remember that increasing your range of vocabulary is so important, but accuracy is ultimately more important. Okay, key number 2, this is very important. Please do not memorize answers on the test. A lot of students and test takers do this. I know it's very tempting to do it, especially because there are so many YouTube channels out there that encourage you to do that, to memorize entire templates, entire responses. But CELPIP test raters spend all day listening to and reading responses, and they are very experienced. They can identify a memorized response right away, and they will flag your exam and consider it as cheating. You don't want to have to take your exam again, right? They want to test your natural English, not something that you found online. So here's an example of a memorized sentence. Notice how this one here really has no context. It just says something that anybody could memorize and take to the test. So what you do want to do, and this is just a simple response that you could take, but in my course, I do teach lots of different ways that you could prepare your responses without memorizing them, is to write a response or say a response that's contextualized, okay? Another way that students and test takers memorize responses is to use really fake statistics or research. It's better to use real life examples. Remember, once again, like I said at the beginning of the webinar, what is the purpose of the CELPIP test? It's a Canadian English test used for immigration purposes. Now, keeping that in mind, you want to use your natural English. The examiner wants to hear your English for real life. So keep that in mind as you take your test, okay? It's better to use real examples. And by doing that, you will speak more naturally. My next tip is that being fluent in English is just not enough. Even native speakers need to prepare for the test, and that's because a CELPIP test rater has very complex and specific assessment criteria. So examiners are listening for and reading for your tone of voice, the quality of your ideas. These are very important tips. The number of your ideas, the structure and organization of your responses, how complete and well developed your arguments are, and more. The way I like to explain the assessment criteria, it's that it's a giant pie or a pizza. About half the pizza or half the pie is based on your actual English, meaning your vocabulary, pronunciation, and grammar. But really the other half is knowing how to take the test, is understanding how a CELPIP test rater is going to assess you. What are they thinking? It's how a test rater is going to assess your speaking and writing responses. And that's why it's so important to understand what an examiner is looking for. Now, of course, I would love to break down the CELPIP performance criteria with you in detail so that you can take your next test confidently, but I just don't have enough time to do that in this webinar. But I do have something to offer you at the end of the webinar so that you can learn more about it. I do want to show you one more exam pro tip to help you with your test anxiety though, because I know that test anxiety is really important for your success. I really believe actually that this is a big factor and a big reason why many people, even native speakers even, might not get the results that they are looking for. So here's my final tip for you today, and it looks really simple, but it could be a game changer for you. It's the coffee shop approach, okay? The CELPIP test has been designed to replicate real life, okay? This is a very unique tip that I guarantee you have not seen elsewhere. I thought about this when I was doing my last instructor training, and it hit me that over the years, most of my students have come to me with the same problem or the same frustration, saying that they feel like the test center is distracting, that it's uncomfortable, and that they feel like they struggle so much with anxiety, knowing that they have to go to this environment that is not similar to their everyday life. And then I really realized that the test center can actually be very similar to real life. So if you think about it, the CELPIP test is mirroring real life because there really aren't many experiences where we are by ourselves talking. We are usually in loud environments, on the train, at stores, right? So this is the opportunity to practice your real life English. So I want you to embrace this concept. I know it's a weird one, it's a fun one, because I know for a fact that a big fear around taking the CELPIP test is thinking that the environment is too scary. So if we take that fear away from the test environment, I believe that your test anxiety will go down. Other limiting beliefs that I've heard of are that you'll never be able to learn English, and that's just not true. You can always choose to learn English or improve your CELPIP test at any age. I know that because I've seen it. And a final limiting belief that I've heard is that if you don't pass your exam, you're a failure. That is not true at all. It's common to take the CELPIP test more than once, and each time you take it, you will get closer to your goal. Now, I can tell you a story. I very recently had a student who had taken this CELPIP test 6 times before contacting me. Now, of course, before contacting me, she was very frustrated that she had to take it so many times. But by studying with our school, she finally got the CLB-9 that she wanted. And I think a big reason why she finally got the CLB-9 was not only did she learn the skills that she needed, it's also because she changed her mindset. She didn't feel like she'd failed anymore. She knew that all of those previous attempts were steps towards her final goal. So my promise to you today was for you to learn exam pro tips and secrets that you won't find elsewhere so you take your next test confidently and calmly. I hope I've helped you with that. And the great news is that this is not about not having time or information to prepare for your test. It's really about focusing on the right information to maximize your time, because I know we are all busy, and by studying with a CELPIP Pro. So what do you need to win on your CELPIP test? Well, first of all, you need answers from professional and quality exam prep material. You need knowledge and awareness of how you're going to be tested by your CELPIP test rater. Simple, step-by-step lesson materials so you can make your life easy. You need support from a CELPIP Pro and team, clarity and peace of mind so you can take your next test confidently and stress-free. So what now? We've gone through the webinar. You've got 2 choices. You can close this now, walk away, forget everything you've just learned, but that really means going back to the same results you've always had. Or you can choose to take action, transform your results, and create real change in your life. Now, if you are ready for something different, if you are serious about finally getting the CELPIP score that you need and getting your permanent residency, I'd love it if you could stay with me because I'm going to help you make that happen. I would love to introduce to you my CELPIP courses and why they are different. You're going to study from examiner level sample answers. You're going to get step-by-step video lessons, and you're going to learn from those examiner level responses without any mistakes in them. My course is quick, simple, and easy to follow, and it's also really fun. You're going to discover exactly what a CELPIP test rater is looking for. You're going to immerse yourself in Canadian English, which is so important, right? It ultimately is a Canadian English language test. You're going to be studying from a true Canadian accent because all of our lessons are 100% Canadian. Remember that full immersion is always the quickest and best way to notice real results. And by doing so, you're also going to improve your vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation. Credibility and results. By studying with English for Canada, you can trust that you're studying with a school that has been authorized and partnered with Prometric Testing. Now, Prometric Testing is the company that offers the official CELPIP tests, and we are an official CELPIP preparation school. I am also certified levels 1 through 3 as an instructor with distinction. I have over 15 years of teaching experience now and over 250 5-star reviews in Google. So you can trust that I truly care about my students, and you'll have my support and guidance until you get the band scores you need. I've got 2 CELPIP self-study courses, and let's break down what is included in them. So they both include fun modules, including self-study videos with, of course, an authentic Canadian accent. Sample responses at examiner levels for both writing tasks 1 and 2 that show you exactly how the CELPIP test raters think. You're going to learn how to write writing task 2 responses in simple, easy to follow steps. You're going to get over 50 sample questions and responses for all 8 speaking tasks, over 50 sample audios and transcripts for all those speaking tasks, and toolkits where you're going to learn our top tips and strategies for each task. You're also going to get over 300 linkers and transitional words and expressions for your speaking and writing tests. I'm also going to teach you a top secret grammar hack that I guarantee is going to boost your band score. You're also going to find out the top CELPIP myths that are holding you back from your dream score. For the complete mastery course, you also get our additional reading and listening video lessons, which include our top tips and strategies to boost your reading and listening band scores. And for those of you who enroll in the complete mastery program, you get 2 official paid practice tests through the Prometric website. That's a $40 value. Now, I've got so many students that have enrolled in our programs. I've just taken a few snippets here for you to see. We've got over 250 5-star reviews on Google. These are some of my more recent ones. These are some students that have taken our courses recently. I'm very passionate about teaching, and I love seeing all of our students get the results they need, and I would be more than happy to support you in your CELPIP journey. So I would love to introduce to you 2 amazing options for you to prepare for your next CELPIP test so that you can take it with confidence and without any stress. The CELPIP Focus Essentials is only $99 Canadian. Of course, that includes the speaking and writing modules and everything that I mentioned just now. And if you'd like to take the complete mastery program, it's $249. That includes the speaking, writing, listening, and reading modules, plus 2 official paid practice tests included. That's a $40 value. For both of these programs, you can always email me during the week. I will be more than happy to answer any questions you might have. I created these programs with the goal of teaching you exactly what you need to learn as quickly and easily as possible. I know that so many students prepare online by themselves and they feel lost and confused and stressed. I wanted to take the stress and anxiety out of preparing for the CELPIP test, and I know that this course can do that for you. And the last thing I want is for you to take the test over and over again. Not only is that very frustrating, it's also very expensive. It's much better and cheaper for you to prepare properly one time than having to take the test multiple times and just get really unmotivated. So I hope that this webinar has provided value for you. I believe I've given you lots of free content, and in the course, you're just going to learn even more. The course is jam-packed with hours of additional content, tons of sample responses that you're really going to dive in and learn exactly what you need for your test. Again, my goal here has always been to provide value and to support you and to help you. So whether or not you enroll in my course, I just want to say thank you for joining me for this webinar, and I hope to see you online. I always love saying, if I believe in you, you have to too. So let's get started, and I hope to see you online in my CELPIP Self-Study course so that you can take your next CELPIP test without stress and to take it as confidently as possible. You can do this.